Hello, everyone. Getting loose. Welcome back to Music, Movies, and Hoops Interviews. I'm your host, Sasha. As always, if you enjoyed the content we're making, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can keep growing and having more awesome interviews like this one. I'm really excited for tonight. Today, I have Benjamin Violet, the frontman of the acclaimed Austin glam country band Pelvis Wrestley. You've been featured in KUTX, the Austin Chronicle. I saw you were 2020 South by Southwest official showcased artist. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
This fall, you released your debut album, Vortexas Vorever, which is beautiful. So, Benjamin, your music has been described as Dolly Parton meets David Bowie with a hearty seasoning of synth pop, which I love and thought was perfect. You have a killer voice. You are clearly a vibrantly gifted songwriter. What message are you trying to share with your music?
That's a really good question.
I think you have a lot to share, and I'm curious. I'm so curious how you're going to answer this.
Yeah, I am too. I'm just going to piggyback on my friend Carrie Bickley from Calliope Musical's kind of central thesis statement, which is our bodies contain a lot of magic and a lot of wonder. And I think that it's a really exciting thing to be able to explore what our bodies and our minds being a part of our body can do. There's kind of like a sense of like, I'm a person that feels like very, very torn in separate directions. You know,
Okay.
I have a corporate day job.
Yes.
And I have a illustration and animation practice over here. And I've got this music thing that I'm doing with Pelvis Wrestley. And then I have this other band called Andy, and then I play with Lord Friday the 13th. So I'm just like, I'm all over the place. And what that ends up feeling like is all of these like fragmented pieces of myself that feel satisfied by all of those things. And I think that's something that I seek to do with Pelvis Wrestley and keep on like getting closer to knowing how to do this is kind of find a sense of integration where
That's
all
what I
of
was,
these, these like segmented parts of myself have a way to like find some unity and be like, yeah, okay, I'm grounded. This is who I am. And I would hope and I would strive to like make a space for the audience to kind of have a similar experience of be like, I don't know, maybe obviously I'm not looking for Pelvis Wrestling to be anybody's identity, but I would like to give people like a little bit of a breath, a little bit of a Sabbath, if you will, like just a moment where you're not having to continually move around through the desert trying to figure out where you are or how you're going to locate yourself. So just kind of like an open space where you're free to be you.
Okay, yeah, I mean, totally. Vortexas Vorever, it's a pretty diverse album in terms of the sounds and
It's all
styles.
over the place.
And is that kind of the idea? Are you trying to kind of share all these parts of yourself within the entirety of the record?
I think that the album is so like sonically diverse because I was starting out with this concept of like I'd written all of these country songs originally intending to like do something a little bit more traditionally and classically country.
Okay.
So I'd written all of these songs on guitar, which was a stretch for me. And then I blew it up. And then I was like, okay, but I'm just like really digging drum machine and synthesizer programming. And, building out my synth library and stuff like that. And so I was like, what does it look like to take these songs, which sound fairly country if they're played on the traditional instruments, and we just move all of those sounds to other avenues. And short story is that it doesn't translate immediately.
Okay.
So that's the short story. And then like to flesh that out a little bit, we were like, okay, well, how are we going to bring in some elements to make sure that this communicates in a way that feels respectful to the genre while also pushing against its boundaries and stretching its limits? And it got to be kind of like a fun thing. You know, queerness is also like a thing that's like fairly central to the Pelvis Wrestling story and like who I am. And like queerness being this situation where you're like maybe not here and maybe not there.
Okay.
And so you're kind of in this like middle area and kind of testing the boundaries of what gender identities mean. And so as with genre, so with identity, you know, so that's kind of the, it's all over the place. And again, like forever on a track of trying to seek something that feels unified and
cohesive.
if not cohesive, then integrated.
A little bit about the album. I mean, it seems like the band is very much a band in terms of not like sidemen, but you guys seem like a team.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
In a lot of the write-ups about your band, you like mention the other people's bands, which I thought was very compassionate and thoughtful.
I feel very lucky that they're willing to like take any time away from those other bands to do Pelvis with me. So
how involved are they in the arrangements?
There are definitely some tracks like I Love My Country. Like that is a song that I arranged by myself. I kind of felt like I knew what I wanted. And then other tracks like Valley got like a pretty radical makeover when I brought it to the band.
Okay.
The life that they brought to it was just like so lyrical and soft, whereas mine was like a little bit boxier. My original like composition was like a little bit more like I don't think I'll ever forget what it was like playing that song with the band for the first time and being like, oh yeah.
That's always a great moment, right?
Oh, such a cool moment.
I'm kind of just curious about the rollout for the album. Would you be touring behind it if it was not COVID?
Short answer, ideally, yes. To kind of like anchor us and make us seem like attractive, because we're not going to be like a strong headlining touring act at the moment.
Support
and
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild thing being in the music business and being like, man, my like dream stretch goal is that I'll get to be someone's backup. Man, that was great. But that's like really how it feels.
And make $200 for the whole band, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know the ropes.
I do.
So that's like, that feels like the dream. And then I'm like, damn, am I dreaming the right dream? I mean, the honest truth is I adore the experience of touring. Like,
okay.
I love it as a way to like, to structure seeing different cities, but having parameters on it because you got to be at the venue at 5:00 for no goddamn reason.
I think for bands of our stature, you're kind of choosing between like, I could get a $600, maybe $700 brewery gig or something, or you could get a support slot and make $150, but play for 400 people and open for a great band. And there's that push and pull. What would you prefer?
I would take the opening slot every time. The other thing you learn on the road is that the only real money and one of the only real ways to make money is to sell t-shirts. So yeah, there's the component of the exposure. There's the component of just like what the experience of performing is like. A little bit of a sweet wild card when you're someone's opening act, I'll say. I got to open for the Polyphonic Spree on it.
Oh, no way. Really?
Yeah. It was a great
experience. So cool.
Just like so special. People didn't always love what we were doing. I didn't really care.
What are they like?
They're great. They're I would call them like approaching salt of the earth. They're hard workers, obviously. Like they've picked the least practical way to be a band imaginable. Which just like so much of that speaks directly to my soul. I'll take the long road most days, and I feel like that's kind of their ethic and their very core to their values. But Tim DeLauder, the frontman, there's like this. He's got such a like just stamina with sharing himself with people, like not just his band but his fans. Like after shows, just like let hundreds of people in a line come up and have like full like long conversations with him about, you know, how his music saved their life, and like not in like a come and praise me way, but just really engaging with like his fans about like the hard experiences that they've had. And
Benjamin, you're from Austin.
Mm-hmm.
You moved back from Seattle. I think you were there for about a decade.
That's right.
You moved back in 2016, and I read that you said kind of in every way Austin's a better fit. Why is that? Tell us about that.
I think that my experience in Seattle, it was just really difficult to get anyone to pay attention. It didn't feel like we were doing what people wanted to see at shows. So, and when I say we, I'm talking about my band, Andy, when we were there, and my band before that, Friends and Family, where we were just like, we were working so hard. We were on our grind, and we just like, we couldn't get anything to stick. We couldn't get anybody to like listen or pay attention. This is probably reductive, but like if I were to distill the difference between our cities, I feel like Seattle is a city that's very much in its head. Like it's very cerebral. It's got those like grunge roots that still show up. It felt like what people were interested in though was fairly fairly narrow.
Indie rock, grunge.
Yeah, like and I love these bands, so it's not to any of their like discredit, but like they wanted things that sounded like Chastity Belt at the time. You could either be Chastity Belt or Head and Heart.
Yeah.
You know, when we came to Austin, it was just like an immediate warm and generous experience. I feel like Austin showgoers are more interested in having a little bit more of a good time.
I've never been, so I'm totally putting words in your mouth. But tell me if this sounds right. I'm just reflecting what I hear.
Yeah, hit me.
I feel like in Austin, people who come to shows want you to be good and believe that they come with an open heart of this is probably going to be good, and then if it's not, there's a disappointment. It sounds like in Seattle, maybe people come with a judgment, like prove it to me.
Yeah, I think that's a really good distilling of what I think I'm trying to get at.
I mean, I'm from the Northeast, and there's a lot of that. There's a kind of lot of furrowed brows.
Yeah, it's just people are hard to impress. And
yes.
Again, not to say that we just should have made it in Seattle and it's their fault.
Damn you, Seattle.
Damn you, Seattle. But I guess like what I would see in the audience when I was performing sometimes, and I would see this too when I was in the audience seeing other bands, is people kind of like doing this thing where they're looking to their left or right to like see how other people are reacting to it, kind of like giving their response to the band in step with that. Like I find Seattle to be like a very socially anxious city. You do not want to say or do the wrong thing. You will get cut so fast. I do not find it to be a very gracious city.
Sounds stressful.
I found it to be stressful. Like that whole Seattle freeze thing is like, it's very true.
Yeah. Just because I'm realizing this moment that you're the first person I've talked to who's lived in Seattle. Just in terms of scale, Benjamin, how would the music scenes compare?
I would say that it's fairly comparable. I think that Seattle actually has Austin beat in terms of some kinds of music industry infrastructure.
Well, everyone knows the Austin music industry infrastructure is not strong.
I mean, except for the way that we support artists, like we've got Ham and Sims and organizations like that support like health and well-being of artists for sure. And I think that sets Austin apart in just a singular way.
Thank you for saying that. You said something in a piece with Rebel Noise that really, really interested me and spoke to me, and I really want to unpack with you and find out more. You were talking about representation at venues.
Okay.
How clubs are ultimately prioritizing the bottom line.
Sure.
Which, you got to do if you're a business. I mean, there's something to be said about that. You had a great quote. You said, "I think we vote with our dollars."
Yes.
Can you just talk about this more, what you said in that conversation, what your thoughts are on this?
It's one thing to say, hey, venues, you need to be booking more Black artists, booking more, women artists. You need to be booking more inclusive shows. And we want that. That's true. But here's the truth, and this is where this becomes confessional. A gift that this year has given us is like a lot of time and space to think about what we've done. I went to Cheer Ups, like they were having a hip hop and indigenous artists night. Okay.
Yes, I'm with you.
And I went in and I like looked around and I was like, damn, I'm an intruder here. This is not for me. And like, I think that in a way I thought I was doing the right thing. I was like, they deserve to have their night and like not worry about this white guy being here. Missing the point 100% that one of the main reasons why clubs don't book like shows like that more often is because of what I did. It's because people don't come and they don't stay. Like you can participate without taking up like all the space. My intention would be that when there are shows to like show up and stay, buy some drinks, show that these are
that could be a sticker.
Yeah, for sure. I hope that we can stop pointing at other people and saying they're doing the thing wrong. They need to fix it and then everything's going to be fine, and look at how we're contributing to these situations ourselves.
When I read that, Benjamin, it made me think of something that I was talking to my mom about. My mom, we have a family friend, one of my mom's best friends, Beverly Tatum, Dr. Beverly Tatum, an incredibly successful woman, former president of Spelman College in Atlanta, nationally recognized anti-racism leader. My mom was telling me a conversation they had that, this year in particular, especially in the wake of George Floyd, a ton of companies have been calling her and saying, Beverly, we want to hire more people of color for our businesses. And her response is, absolutely not. No way. She's saying your company is intrinsically racist, and if I bring you people of color, they're going to die on the vine. You're not set up to support them and affirm them.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys need to look at yourselves and go back to the drawing board and do 2 years of anti-racism work and restructuring of your whole business, and then I'll help you when you're ready to support these people. And I tell this story because what you talk about in this article is this idea of, if we get a black artist to play a show and no one goes, that actually doesn't help them. What kind of ideas do you have, or can we talk about, for sustainably addressing this and not just getting more voices on the stage, but filling it with people to show up and stay?
One of the contributing pieces, which I feel very confident about, kind of to that point of like making sure that the vine is healthy enough to sustain.
Mm-hmm.
We are all the vine, right?
Well put.
So like representation doesn't mean anything in and of itself. Like, especially at companies like that, like it becomes a metric, becomes like this like kind of tokenizing thing and a way to prove that you're a good boy. I'm a good boy because I went to a predominantly black show. And so one of the things that we can do is stop talking about who's good and bad people. I honestly believe that is like a huge problem with the way that we think about it, because what it happens is it's entirely shame-based. Like, how do I escape my shame?
I totally get that.
What I've been trying to do personally is kind of rewire myself, because I come from like an extremely religious background where good and evil is like the duality that we're always talking about, and like I really struggle with wanting people to think that I'm good. But so like what I am trying to do is kind of pull out those wires and focus on what is nurturing and what is harmful. As we all know, good people cause harm, right? But then good people exclude themselves from the work of repairing that harm. I don't care. I don't give a fuck if you're good. I don't give a fuck how well you sleep at night. Like, what I'm interested in is if your actions are causing harm to somebody, how are you going to reach out? How are you going to like work with the community to repair that harm? We can do things wrong and not have it question our entire identity as a person that has value. I do feel like rewiring that like way that we think about like good and bad can put us in a position where we're able to interact with people imperfectly and have there be like room for grace to show up, maybe imperfectly, but be ready to learn and like grow from there.
Yeah, maybe to be okay with saying I'm a work in progress.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's like one of the greatest things about anti-racism work in general is like one of the first statements is like assuming your racism, like implicit bias, and like owning your implicit bias instead of leaning on your inherent goodness to protect you from your implicit bias.
Did I read that you grew up an emo head?
You did read that, and I did grow up an emo head.
Get up, kids.
Although I've never heard anyone call an emo head an emo head.
I've never said it before.
We're starting it now. I was a total emo head.
I was too, and I was so excited. I saw Good Charlotte before they were famous in front of 500 people. Newfound Glory, Phoenix TX, Get Up Kids were my favorite bands. A couple of years ago, I actually signed a publishing deal with Victory Records. I don't know if you know them, but some type.
Wow, yeah.
That was kind of like a trip because it kind of brought me full circle. They didn't have all those bands, but they had some.
Hey, it's not Vagrant, but I'll allow
Exactly. It's not Drive Through Records. Do you still listen to that music?
I will from time to time. It was certainly important to me back when.
Your music is distinctly not that.
Yeah. Well, so what happened?
Did you just grow out of it, or did you feel like that wasn't marketable, or just curious?
I guess I would say I did grow out of it. So I was very into Cult of Personality, I suppose. So my first show ever was Get Up Kids Thrice with Dashboard Confessional in the format. Somehow,
it's the Holy Grail.
It's the Holy Grail. And it just happened to be like my first show. It was at Stubbs.
No way.
Yeah, I was like 14. Then, like a year later, Get Up Kids was like, see you later, guys. And I remember after I read that the Get Up Kids were breaking up, I like called one of my best friends and I was like, do you have any bands you like? I need a new favorite band. My band broke up. Because like it wasn't in my consciousness. Like if they broke up, I didn't know how to continue caring about them. That something about it being like current and still happening felt like a story that like in some way I was a part of.
Yeah.
Like, the fandom was really important to me. so that happened. I was just like so disillusioned with emo because the Get Up Kids broke up, and then someone showed me Sigaros, and then I was just like
Oh, that's what happened.
that's what happened. I listened to Sigaros, and then I found my way halfway back, hit that like that point at which emo and indie kind of like commingle.
I think we call that 2008.
We call it, I think this was probably like 2006 that I started getting like really into like Fevers and Mirrors and stuff.
Cool. Wait, Benjamin, you brought up something that I've never thought of, which is what I hope will happen in these conversations. But you said you felt part of the journey.
Yeah.
And I'm totally with that. And I do think there's an irony or a dichotomy between the fact that here in 2020, we have so much access to bands. You can follow their social media. You can almost see behind the scenes when they're posting IG videos. But I almost felt more connected to bands back then too. And I think because it was harder, because you had to go to a store to get the magazine, to read the article, or order the poster from the one random site, you felt like you put in this effort and it almost made you feel closer. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that resonate?
Oh, it 100% resonates. I like...
You did feel part of it.
There's like this principle of, what was it called? Scarcity demand?
Yes, yes.
Companies will actually will lie about their current stock in order to jack up prices.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's sort of like there's some part of that comes into play with bands.
Benjamin, to wrap this up, I got a lightning round for you. First question: where's your favorite taco in Austin?
My favorite taco is at Veracruz. I love the fish taco.
Veracruz is a great answer. Okay, what is your favorite movie about self-realization?
Because it's current, Bill and Ted 3.
Oh, is that good?
Oh, I loved it. I cried like a baby.
Benjamin, would you rather play a gig with David Bowie or spend a night partying with Dolly Parton?
Gig with David Bowie, because I'm not convinced I'd be able to keep up with Dolly.
What instrument that you don't play do you wish you could play the most?
I really wish that I could play the upright bass.
That's exactly what my answer would be. Great answer. Okay, and then in 30 seconds, in the lightning version of this question, tell us your favorite story from a show.
My favorite story from a show was actually...
Dashboard Stubbs.
Dashboard Stubbs. No, this was when I was on tour with my band, Friends and Family. Mm-hmm. And we played in Dallas at the record store that is associated with the Polyphonic Spree, and I was just getting to know them as a band. And it was a weird tour because like we had to tour without a bass player, but our music really needed a bass.
Yeah.
And so the pianist from the Polyphonic Spree at the time, Bach Norwood, was like, "Hey, that was a great set, man, but I wish there'd been a bass." And I was like, "Yeah, limitations. We did it. We did the best we can." He's like, "Okay, cool. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh, are you coming to Austin for our Austin show tomorrow?" And he's like, I'm playing. I'm sitting in on bass with you."
Oh, no way.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, I wasn't going to say no. And so I was like, "Oh, all right." And he's like, "What do I need to know?" I was like, "Well, here's a CD.
The songs would be great.
The songs. Here's the songs. Do we need to rehearse before?" He's like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I trust." And he showed up in an outfit that was like perfectly curated to match exactly what the rest of us were wearing.
It's a good start.
He came with charts written out, like full tablature for every song that was in our set. And I was like, "When did you have time to do that?" And he's like, I did it while we were on the drive over. And then he knocked it out of the park. It was amazing. He's one of those. Yeah. He's a genius. So that like kind of kicked me in the teeth and knocked the wind out of me. And then we had a great night partying.
Awesome. That's a great way to end it. Benjamin Violet, the leader of Pelvis Wrestley. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. This was so fun.
Thank you, Sasha. This was a treat. Nice talking.